If you're new here, I'm Nikki and I live in Subtropical Queensland, Australia. I'm on a mission to grow as much food as I possibly can on a regular sized suburban block. My strategy is to plant a single bed every month to avoid that feast of famine when it comes to harvests. I also have a few beds that are dedicated to things that take a little bit longer than a 4-month turnaround. Things like capsicums, eggplants, chilies, sweet potatoes, and garlic. So this month I'm going to be planting out my Vegepod. We've actually just moved it to this new location just outside my greenhouse. When I pulled out all of the dirt, I did find that a lot of the dirt had fallen down into the wicking wells of the Vegepod. So I think I need to fully pull the dirt out more often. I don't think I'd done it since we set it up, which is probably about 5 years ago. The reasons now why it was doing so poorly is pretty obvious to me. So the number one thing was there was dirt in those reservoirs and the smell was disgusting. There was also a massive ant's nest. I'll show you inside the Vegepod, but this is it cleared of dirt. What it has is a reservoir to hold the water. Essentially it is a kind of a wicking bed. And then it has these plates, which are called the wicking wells. And then these little feet, they've got little holes in them. They sit in the water. So I actually just filled it up as per their instructions, which was adding a bit of perlite into the mix. And I think what I'm going to do is actually fill these wells up with perlite, and hopefully that might get the smell down, because basically it was just anaerobic, the wells of water. Did find as well that perhaps these overflow holes weren't big enough, and it could have just been because of the debris sitting in this water reservoir area. There was things clogging that. So in some of the actual wells itself, they weren't draining, and that was probably causing a lot of the problems that I was having with it. It's been a pretty good setup, but there are a few things that kind of bug me. One is that obviously because it is a modular system, you only can kind of plant in the middle. So this is a large size. So when you fill your soil up to here, this bit here is a bit useless. It's only like 10, maybe 15 centimeters high. So you can't really grow anything in that little area. So that's one thing that I don't love about it. But because we have the tree root issues from these guys here, it's perfect for this location. We've popped it on pavers for more stability. The legs are starting to bow a little bit in certain places, but that's probably because we didn't have it on pavers, flat pavers like this beforehand. I'm not sure exactly how old it is. We've had it for at least 5 years, and obviously because we got it secondhand, I have no idea how long the previous owners had it. When we got it, we did not have the net, but I was given 2 of these medium nets, which I have been using on it. The other one just kaput, and this one pretty much has 2. I found that these, they basically got bent somehow and ended up snapping. But these are, at least, because we had these well before we actually got the Vegepod. We used these on our chop and flip aquaponics system when we had possum problems, and they worked really, really well. I guess they've lasted well. My problem is now that I need to replace them, and to get the large one to fit over the entire bed, it's almost $200. I'm a little bit reluctant to do that, and I might just rig up a system myself for it. So I'm going to put straight perlite into the wicking wells just so soil isn't constantly sitting in water. I did contemplate putting a bit of a barrier here just to prevent the drainage holes from being clogged, but I will just see how this goes, and I'll make sure that I keep an eye on those holes and make sure that they are draining. I'm just grabbing soil from one of the garden beds that we are pulling down. So I just wanted to quickly show you guys, this is one of the garden beds that we had tree root issues, and we put this thick plastic root blocker, which worked really well, but what you can see is the trees came up the side of the root blocker and into the garden bed anyway, so that was our problem. I also know that I put a hole in it right in the middle when I was putting a worm tower in, so they also came through that hole as well. It does work if you can not poke holes in it, and if you can probably extend it outside the bed rather than put it up on the inside. This was obviously retrofitted from a bed that we'd already set up, so we couldn't really do that. But if you're looking at dealing with tree roots, maybe this stuff is an option. It does only come in certain widths. I think it's like 60 centimeters, so your beds would have to be a lot smaller too. So what I've added is soil from that existing garden bed. I've added 1.5 bags of the 5-in-1 and a block of cocoa coir and a 20-litre bag of perlite. I think I will need to add an extra bag of perlite, but I might just wait until I do a top up on this bed after this round of plants have finished up. I'm also adding some of my goodie mix, which is just a mix of trace elements. If you are in my Dirt Lovers membership, you can grab my recipe inside the portal. Okay, so I've let this rest for a few days after topping it up. I do think I will need to add more perlite at some point, but I think I'll do that when I change over. But I'm going to be playing it really safe for December. This bed will obviously keep going through until March, maybe April. And so I'm just going to be doing a basil, beans and greens bed. So it's very simple, things that are pretty foolproof. Obviously with lettuce, it is tricky to grow when it's really hot. It does bolt straight to seed. So the idea will be lots of turnover quite often. I'm also going to be putting in some flowers just to help with the beneficial insects. So I've got this basil combo. It says it's only 3, but I'm pretty sure there are 4 different types in here. This is a sweet basil, this is a dark opal. Pretty sure this one is, you can tell by the stem, it's a Thai. And this one to me looks a little bit like a lemon or a lime, and same with that one. So I've got that combo. I've just got some mixed lettuce combinations and just some more sweet basil and some flowers. I'm also going to be popping in some bush beans. These are just a standard round green bean that go really well here for us, the strike. And I'll be planting those on the edges. So in terms of layout, what I'm going to do is make use of those pods. So basically with each of those little cell, if you can remember before I filled it up, I'm going to put a basil plant on each of those. I'm going to do lettuce. They are shallow rooted, so I'll do those in between. On the edges, I'll do my beans, and in the corners, I will do my flowers. So water all that in. Okay, and mulching with sugarcane mulch because we live in Queensland. And that's what's here. This is just seaweed emulsion that I'm adding here now. I definitely think as these grow and I harvest the lettuce, I will probably replace with some spring onions as well as extra lettuce as they grow. So that's it all planted out. There is a risk because it is so close to the fence and not far of a drop down that it will get eaten by possums, particularly with possum nests in those trees just there. But we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to get some sunflowers in now. I know I'm a little bit late with sunflowers. I normally get it in a lot earlier because it's not summer without sunflowers, I don't think. Sunflowers are really tricky because they do suck a lot out of your soil. So it's kind of best for them to be planted in a dedicated spot away from other things. And I usually throw the seeds in around the garden, not in our actual veggie beds. I've got this one area that used to be under our carport. So there's a little section of dirt in our carport. The carport has been pulled down and removed and now it's got full sun. So I'm going to plant them there. I won't ever be able to grow edibles in that spot because I just don't know the quality of the soil. So I'm going to do sunflowers. We don't typically grow sunflowers to eat. Perhaps the chickens will get the heads. It's just really an aesthetic thing. So what I'm also going to do, I've got in here my sunflower seeds, but I've also got a whole heap of cosmos seeds. It's not really the right time to plant cosmos seeds, but I'm just going to sprinkle them around and see if they come up. I've just prepped this with a bit of 5-in-1, but I'm also adding some blood and bone because sunflowers are super heavy feeders. So I just went and deadheaded a few of my marigolds. I've got some of those seeds and I'm just going to scatter them around in that bed as well. I'm not going to plant anything in my greenhouse because Christmas is coming. We're going away for a fair bit of the Christmas holiday, so I don't want to have to be babying anything. So I'm just going to be chucking seeds in the garden and hoping for the best. In this back wicking bed here, I'm going to put in some more snake beans. So these ones, I've got two different varieties here. I've got the black seeded, which produces like a lime green potted bean, and then I've got the red noodle, which is the red one. So I'm just going to put them in my wicking bed right next to my monster asparagus, and hopefully I'll get them to climb up, and hopefully the opossums won't trim them back too badly, but we'll see how we go. I'm also going to add in some Madagascar climbing beans. They're a type of lima bean, a perennial that do really well here. The seeds are kind of tricky to germinate because often they do rot before they sprout. So I usually go in with a lot more than I actually intend to grow, but they do really well here when it gets really hot and wet, but it's just getting them to germinate that is tricky. Another one to grow inside if it is too hot outside is some microgreens. I've just got this microgreen grower. Normally I use a seed raising mix, but I didn't have any of that. So I've just got this vermiculite and perlite mix, and I'm going in with this combo of microgreens, which is basil, rocket, and sunflower. All I do is sprinkle over the top and then cover with a damp paper towel and wait until they sprout, and then I just cut off what I need as I need it. Usually around 2 to 3 weeks I'm getting harvests from these. And that's everything that we are planting in our garden here in South East Queensland, Australia in December. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.